Welcome to this explainer. Have you ever looked into the eyes of a faithful dog, or just listened to the gentle purr of a cat curled up right beside you, and quietly wondered, will I ever see you again? Man, it's a deeply personal, often heart-wrenching question. For a lot of us, it literally feels almost too painful to even say out loud. But today, we're going to take a gentle, deeply biblical look at this exact question. We're putting aside just mere opinions to discover what the Word honestly reveals about these animals we love so much.
So, right at the heart of today's explainer is this really heavy question: will I ever see my pet again? And right alongside it is a secondary, equally heavy question: is it wrong to grieve them so deeply? Listen, if you've ever lost an animal companion, you know firsthand that this is a massive burden to carry. Because the truth is, our pets are never, ever just animals, right? Wondering about their eternal fate is just a completely natural response to a profound loss.
Honestly, it's so easy to see exactly why pets become family. Think about it. They greet us at the door when literally no one else does. They sit quietly beside us when we're crying. They remain fiercely loyal when people walk away. If you've recently lost a pet, I just want to say right up front, your grief is entirely real. Please don't let anyone ever make you feel guilty for mourning that bond by telling you, oh, they were just an animal.
Section 1. Why the grief is real.
Okay, so let's dive into this by first establishing that God created relationships, and that deliberately includes the profound emotional bond between humans and animals. This bond, it isn't some accident. It's part of a grander design by the Creator himself. The book of James tells us that every good and perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of the heavenly lights. I mean, think about that pet who waited by the door for you, who loved you without asking for a single thing in return. Our pets are often these silent, beautiful reminders of God's kindness in our everyday lives. They're a genuinely good gift coming straight from the Father.
And as we see all the way back in Genesis 1:31, God saw all that he had made, which explicitly included the animals, by the way, and declared it very good. Animals existed before sin even entered the picture. They were part of God's perfect creation. So if you're grieving today, please do not be ashamed. Remember that Jesus himself wept at the tomb of Lazarus. Grief isn't a weakness. Mourning your pet is simply an act of love that suddenly has nowhere to go.
Section 2. God's care for animals. Now, sometimes people operate under this kind of false assumption that God only cares about humanity and that the rest of creation is basically just background scenery. But Scripture actually paints a very different, much more compassionate picture regarding the animal kingdom. Look at Psalm 36, verse 6. It explicitly states, "Lord, you preserve both people and animals." God's compassion and his desire for preservation absolutely apply to both humans and animals alike. Notice that specific language there. He preserves both.
We see this exact same thing again in Genesis chapter 9. When Noah built the ark, God didn't just save humans, right? He specifically instructed Noah to save the animals too. And after the flood, God made a covenant. A lot of people forget this part. It wasn't just with Noah. He said, "I now establish my covenant with you and with your descendants after you, and with every living creature." This builds some tremendous textual evidence that God's rescue plan deliberately included the animal kingdom.
So, the absolutely crucial point is right here. Every living creature. God made a lasting covenant with animals because they actually matter deeply to him. They aren't just some afterthought in his grand narrative. They are vital participants in his creation.
And Jesus himself reinforced this idea in Matthew 10:29. He noted that not one tiny sparrow falls to the ground outside the Father's care. Let's really connect the dots here. If a penniest sparrow doesn't fall outside his loving attention, he certainly, without a doubt, knows about the beloved pet that shared years of your life. Nothing escapes his loving gaze.
Section 3. Creation, awaiting its restoration.
Let's see how this builds over in the book of Romans, kind of shifting our perspective to the overarching cosmic story of the created world and its future. Romans 8 tells us, creation waits in eager expectation. The whole creation has been groaning. See, Paul doesn't say only humanity is waiting for redemption. He points out specifically that the whole creation is waiting. The entire created world, including suffering animals and nature itself, has been profoundly affected by the fall, and it's all just waiting for redemption. Which brings us to a super vital paradigm shift. We have to completely discard the idea of replacement. This false notion that this earth is just going to be abandoned and thrown in the cosmic trash can in the end. Instead, we need to look toward restoration, God's true plan to renew creation. exactly as seen in Revelation 21, with the incredible promise of a new heaven and a new earth.
God's final plan isn't to abandon his creation, it's to gloriously restore the whole shebang.
Section 4. The Peaceable Kingdom.
So, what exactly does that restored creation look like? Well, let's walk through one of the most breathtaking visions in the entire Bible, recorded by the prophet Isaiah in chapter 11. He saw these beautifully unlikely pairings. First, the wolf living with the lamb. Then, the leopard lying down with the goat, and the calf and the lion together. We literally see real animals living in perfect peace. No fear, zero violence, no death. Just a fully, beautifully restored creation.
And honestly, this brilliantly illustrates our core point for today. Heaven is not less alive than earth, it is more alive. Animals absolutely have a place in God's future kingdom, because true restoration means abundant life. Think about it. God wouldn't make his eternal kingdom less vibrant, less diverse, or less populated with beauty than the broken world we're living in right now, would he?
Section 5. The Honest Biblical Answer.
All right, at this point, we need to be deeply honest about what Scripture is completely silent on regarding our personal pets. We have to ask the really hard question directly. Does the Bible guarantee we'll see our exact pet in heaven? We have to confront the reality here, guys. There is no specific pet registry mentioned in eternity. The Bible never names our pets individually in its picture of the life to come.
So, the honest biblical answer is no. It doesn't guarantee it. We have to avoid making promises that God himself hasn't explicitly made. It's so vital to be faithful to where Scripture speaks, but also honest about where it's silent. However, we definitely don't end the story there, because there is an ultimate comfort that we do have.
While we might not have a specific verse naming our pet, we know exactly who God is. He's perfectly loving, perfectly wise, and, as Psalm 145:9 tells us, perfectly good, having compassion on all he has made. Just ask yourself, would a perfectly loving Father permanently remove from his restored creation something that so deeply reflects his goodness and brings us such holy joy? He gives us every single reason to thoroughly trust his heart.
Jesus said in John 14, "I go to prepare a place for you." You see, true faith isn't always about knowing every single granular detail of what's to come. Sometimes, true faith is simply trusting the perfectly loving character of the one who's actually preparing your future. He is preparing a place where absolutely nothing good will be missing, and nothing will diminish your joy.
Section 6. Our greatest eternal hope.
Because as beautiful and wordful as our pets are, their unconditional love and their unwavering loyalty actually point us to something even greater. They're just a tiny glimpse of a much larger picture. Revelation 22:4 says, "They will see his face." Ultimately, our greatest joy in eternity won't just be familiar places or even our beloved animals. As incredible as that would be, our ultimate supreme joy will be seeing Jesus Christ face to face. In his glorious presence, every single longing, every tear, and every unanswered question is finally going to make perfect sense. 1 Corinthians 2:9 tells us, "No eye has seen, no ear has heard, the things God has prepared for those who love him." Will you trust his perfect love for your future? I want to invite you to rest in the profound comfort of a God whose restoration is complete and whose love has absolutely no limits. If you've lost a beloved pet, I would love to honor their memory with you today. Please share their name down in the comments. Let's celebrate the beautiful joy they brought into our lives as we trust completely in the boundless, loving restoration of our Creator.